biggest advantage of face-to-face or belly-to-belly that you can do in telesales, but it is much more difficult and you have to be more skilled, is the number one reason why people don't buy is trust, right? It's trust. And in my opinion, you cannot compete. You'll never be able to build the same amount of trust over the phone that you can face-to-face when you can see somebody's energy, you can look them in the eye, you can shake their hand, and they feel, because again, they're buying us and not necessarily the policy, right?
Welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Do not adjust your television sets, or let's be real, don't adjust your cell phones. It's not Chris or Roger, but we do have Zach right here. We've got Chris and Roger out gallivanting all across the globe doing things, but I mean, we got to have somebody here holding down the fort, right?
Absolutely. Somebody's got to be the engine, right? But I do, man, I love the voice. The voice is coming in professional, but you did kind of make it seem like I was the consolation prize.
No, I don't view you as the consolation prize.
Your voice went
well.
down, but we do have Zach.
But
here.
we do have Zach, as in the fact that, you know, this. Let's be honest. The jokes come from an individual. The lofty thoughts and ideals come from an individual. When it comes to hands down, tactical, practical, get it done, get the app kind of training, I feel like you're the guy.
Thank you, Adam. Miranda, get my checkbook. No, I love it, man. And this is the first time you opened the podcast, isn't it? Because we've been on a podcast, I think one other one together, and we talked about marketing yourself, social media. We talked about using videos and all kinds of different ad stuff to blow up your business, which is a really cool podcast, by the way. You wouldn't happen to know it is on top of your head, do you?
No, but if you click right here.
He's also the guy that adds all the magic, which is really cool. But what are we talking about today, Adam?
So I figured since we have you here, I know post-pandemic, since I've kind of joined the Life Insurance Academy team, one thing that I know we focused on quite a bit has been telesales, virtual sales, over the phone, everything but kind of how you got in the business, which is belly to belly, as I've heard some agents say, or face to face. So I figured let's dive into your true area expertise in my mind. And do you think that in 2024, door-to-door sales is still a viable way to run your business? Absolutely.
I think I don't think we'll ever get away from the true relationship, the connection, the call it belly to belly, face to face, the relationship side of it. Telesales has came a very long way. Like you said, back when I started, it really wasn't even an option. It wasn't a thought. Nobody mentioned it. It just couldn't be done, especially when we talk about the final expense market. We're typically focusing on seniors. Typically, that has the lower income demographic. These people typically aren't super tech savvy. They don't have a bunch of laptops. They're not watching YouTube videos all the time. They're not educating themselves in those other ways as this new generation is, per se. So the only way we knew how to do it, man, was to, we call it bloody in our knuckles, but basically buying leads, getting leads, and going to see clients at their homes, which is really cool, actually.
So something that you told me that I am still skeptical on, but the more of you explained it, it's kind of makes sense, is the conversion rates to door are still higher than anything else on our
even on
side?
the agency side. Like it's crazy to say, but this is my 10th year into the business, which in insurance world, it makes me kind of old because the average agent doesn't last very long. But some of the best people in our industry, some of the most consistent producers, some of the people that are at the top of the leaderboards year in and year out, still to this day, stick with the same method that I started on, which was getting a batch of leads, routing those leads, going to see those clients in their homes, connecting with them face to face, building that trust, right? That relationship, that connection, walking them through the process, making sure they find the benefit that fits them and their family the best, and being able to help them get them qualified. They still do that method today. And telesales is blowing up. Telesales is catching up to it, but you can most definitely be extremely successful in face-to-face sales. And I would say some of the most consistent producers are still doing that. But yes, the conversions are higher per lead, right? By far. It's a different game. And when you have the ability, and I'll just give you an example, Adam, you know how easy it is for somebody to call you, and then you probably get it all the time. Numbers you don't know, you're unfamiliar with. They call you up, hey, is this Adam? Hey, Adam, how you doing today? Right?
Or just the famous silence, a few clicks. Hello?
Yeah. And you hear the host.
Then you've got 10 other people clearly talking in the background.
Yeah.
About car warranties.
That's the old power dialer and CRM copping in. Yes. Naturally, you want to, the easiest thing to do is to hang up, is to put your guard up. I'm not interested. You don't even know what it is, right? I'm giving you a free cruise, a free lottery ticket, whatever it is. You're just naturally not interested in that. So in telesales, you have to overcome that very much. In face-to-face, it's slightly different because we have that element of surprise that we're showing up. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier for the client to hang up on us than it is to tell us to go away when we're standing in front of them at their door with a request that they had actually filled out.
So you said standing there surprised. So I'm asking this question because I already know the answer, mainly because shout out to one of the agents that was on a cruise that we were on here recently, Jimmy Frazier. I know he super high producer. Clearly he made it to a fully paid cruise.
By the way, he's 100% face-to-face.
100% face-to-face, yep. Made enough money to vie for a trip. And
he wins multiple trips every single year. One of the most consistent top producers, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
And just all around good guy. But no, what something that I had asked him, and I'm going to ask you for our listeners here, is you said their surprise show up. So are you not setting appointments with these leads?
So in face-to-face, there's two different methods you can do. Number one is, and my preferred method is, if I have a written request or what you call a lead or a qualified lead that a client has filled out, interested and wanting more information on, final expense programs, I'm going to route them. And when I mean route them, I'm going to organize them. Like, say if I'm in a certain county, I'm going to put them in a system, either a GPS or a trip planner, or you could use Google Maps, you can use Road Warrior app. There's so many different methods, but basically like a UPS driver, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to create my route to make it the most efficient as possible. And then I'm literally going to get all the stuff ready in my car, and I'm going to put those leads in my clipboard, and I'm driving right to that home. I'm going to knock on it, and I'm going to talk to Miss Betty. So that was my preferred method because, again, I'm not necessarily scaring them or any way,
right?
But they're not planning for me to be there. But I show up and I want to get them their information, and my ability to get into the home is a lot higher than if I would to have taken that same number of leads. Let's just say it's 30 leads and 30 leads, right? Okay. The other method would be to pre-call all of those leads and try to set some pre-appointments, or let you know, hey, Mr. Adam, I'm going to be in your area. Which day actually works best for you? And we do have scripts for that, to preset appointments for you to then go face-to-face. Mm-hmm. From my experience and most agents' experiences that I'm close with, at least, if you actually take 30 leads and you route them and show up and you're ready and they're not necessarily ready, you're able to get into the home a lot easier. You're able to have that sit down with the clients and then actually get to know them at a lot higher rate than taking the same 30 leads and trying to call them preset. Because two things will happen, Adam. Number one is a lot of them will kind of shoo you away, or again, don't even give you the time of day to understand what it really is. That wall goes up, the defense mechanism goes up, and then they want to turn you away on the phone. which, by the way, you still go door knock those anyways, and they won't remember you. But the second one is they will set an appointment with you. And if you've been in the industry for a while, you kind of know where I'm going with this, but that turns into a disappointment a lot of times, because now they know when you are coming. So if they're not interested and they don't want to tell you no on the phone, they're just not going to show up or answer the door when you come. So if I'm spending my hard-earned money on leads and I'm going to do face-to-face, I will always choose the almost the gentle element of surprise of routing my leads and showing up on my time rather than doing a preset on their time, if that makes sense. I still will do the presets, but it's typically on leftover leads that I didn't get to that week and I'm rolling into the next week. So I'll use maybe a couple call days on the weekend to preset some of the ones I couldn't get last week, but my new ones I'm going to my preferred method is to knock without the preset appointment.
Okay, and I like the way you said that, the gentle form of surprise. It's not like just a, hey, here's a bill collector. It's, hey, how are you? And then I've done enough of these trainings now. You always joke around that I'm the most trained non-licensed agent. I'm on all of the all of the LIA training calls that we do. We've done the door knock dance with you and I now a handful of times. Yeah. But actually, I think this kind of would be a good jump off point.
If they did a new Ultimate Agent, I would put my money on you, Adam. I would put my money on you.
I don't know if I have the drive. Some of you might know this, some of you might not. I was actually licensed for a short period of time and sold insurance for a bit. But I couldn't find Life Insurance Academy at that time. Wasn't really a great fit for me.
Well, you found us now, buddy.
I found you now. So something that you had talked about, being able to go into the home and be that person, be that face to face. It's really hard. It's really easy. Let me start from this direction. It's really easy to pick up a phone and be hesitant about who you're talking to, because anybody can claim to be anybody over a phone. And there's no real way to check that. But I think what you're getting to is with the door-to-door, you can see that you're a real person. You can see that, no, this is what I'm here for. You talk about always having some form of identification, making sure that you're letting people know who you are, who you're with, what you're there for. So that
you're good, Adam.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like I've been a part of these before. But no, so it gives you instant authority and validation at the front end. But kind of going back to some of the numbers that you're sharing with me kind of before we start recording. So not only your conversions are higher, you're saying that your persistency and placement and referrals are all better.
100%.
So the hesitancy in me bringing this up is, why isn't everyone still just solely door knocking?
That's a great question. Let me answer the other ones first. Okay. When it comes to placement persistency, and I think we talked about this on our last podcast with Chris, when we mentioned some of the terminology, which is very valuable for people to understand the lingo, right, of the insurance world. But placement is the rate is as if I'm going to help you apply for a policy, and let's say I help 10 people apply, and let's say 9 of the 10 get actually approved. The placement rate, the rate at which the policy gets approved, that would be like a 90%, right? Is basically where you want to be. Obviously, you want to shoot for 100, but reality is it's not going to be 100.
You're going for an A.
Yeah, and so when it comes into placement, what goes into that is when I'm in the home, when I'm actually connecting with them face to face, I'm able to use my senses, right? I'm able to help people understand what is affordable and what's not affordable. I can see what they spend their money on, their hobbies, their expendable income. When I'm talking about their family and getting to know how much time they spend with their grandkids, and if they take their grandson Johnny to the movies, every Tuesday, dinner and a movie, it's like $50 or so. We're spending $200 a month going to the movies, been spending that grandkid day, right? Mm-hmm. So there's different clues that I'm able to pick up to really know as an agent, am I pricing this policy right? Meaning, am I getting the coverage that they actually need but can also afford? Even though they need the coverage, sometimes a lot of agents make the mistake of overselling. Not necessarily overselling the need, but overselling the actual budget of what really can be affordable, which then affects something called your persistency, right? Which the persistency side of that is, of those policies that get approved and that are on the books, how many of them actually cancel versus how many of them actually stay on the books. Our goal is to make every client, put them in a better position to protect their families, but while doing that, they're only protecting their families while the policy is in force. So we need to keep those policies in force. So pricing it out right, I'm able to use my clues. I'm able to connect with them. I'm able to really use emotions and tonality to really find that out. But when it comes to the placement side of that, taking a look at their medications, right? If they're saying they have nothing wrong with us, but there's an oxygen tank sitting right next to the couch, that's a dead giveaway. So it helps me as a professional underwriter to be able to look at the prescriptions, talk to them about the medications, and the other things they don't consider medications, such as nitro pills, because they don't take them every day, such as inhalers, such as nebulizers, oxygen use. Those different things allow me to really dig in when I have to make sure that they're actually qualifying for the plan, or they will qualify for the plan that we're applying for. So it really helps in those two areas. And the crazy thing about that, Adam, is if you have a higher placement, that means you get more policies on the books that you actually apply for, which means you initially get more commissions, right? If you have a higher persistency, that means you have less policies actually canceling and falling off the books, which means you get to keep more commissions.
You're not falling in the red. You're not falling into that chargeback game.
Yes, but the biggest advantage of face-to-face or belly-to-belly that you can do in telesales, but it is much more difficult and you have to be more skilled, is the number one reason why people don't buy, which is also the number one reason why people cancel, is trust, right? It's trust. And in my opinion, you cannot compete. No matter, you'll never be able to build the same amount of trust over the phone that you can face to face. When you can see somebody's energy, you can look them in the eye, you can shake their hand, and they feel, because again, they're buying us and not necessarily the policy, right?
Yeah.
Because they can get a policy anywhere. So those drastically contribute. And the other thing you mentioned, Adam, was the referrals, right? Being able to cross-sell, being able to have additional referrals in the home. And when you got started, did you ever go to a home?
I did. We set a number of appointments. I did, half a dozen to about a dozen presentations.
Okay. And was that typically in the final expense realm, or were you?
Yeah, was final expense.
Okay, perfect. So then you kind of have a little better concept of this. But when we're looking at final expense families, a lot of times their income is lower. They're more typically in more rural communities. Their ages are typically between the ages of 50 to 85 is kind of in that range. And what you notice is a lot of them are on Social Security or disability, but they typically don't have a lot of savings accounts. They don't have a shoebox full of money under their bed. So they're paycheck to paycheck, if you will.
Yeah.
And in order to make their lives a lot easier, they have other family members typically living with them. It could be a cousin, an uncle, a brother. It could be, their Aunt Sue lives with them.
All right. Any number of extended family.
A lot of grandkids living with them. In a lot of cases, even if they're not living with them, they don't have a lot of expendable income to go to the mall every day. So if they're not living with them, they're in the vicinity and they're usually coming over to hang out. So this is a great opportunity for you to be able to help multiple members in the home at one time, and or take care of a client and being able to ask them who in their family knows that would really benefit from taking care of this, because they're all in the same exact situation.
Right.
And when you can serve multiple families in one home off one lead, it is absolutely amazing.
It's essentially generating free leads off of what you've already purchased.
Absolutely.
On top of the trust that you've built, because it's a face, it's a name. You're probably going to leave a business card of some sort, a way to get in contact. And you're much more likely. I see where you're coming from. I'm much more likely to deal with someone that I've met, shook their hand, know that they have my best interest, versus some nameless, faceless person over the phone. Not to knock any of you telesales agents out there, please, by all means. We're not trying to cause that kind of faction. But so something that we see a lot in our YouTube algorithm. So I go through all the comments, which thank you all, by the way, for the subscriptions, the comments, the likes. It's the growth we've experienced over the last little bit has been huge. And as the guy that handles all of that, thank you. I do appreciate that. But going through some of the research that we've looked at, we see a lot of people looking up a day-to-day of what an insurance agent is. So obviously telesales, you get up, you take that long walk from the bedroom to the office, and you just kind of click in. What does a typical day-to-day look for, door-to-door sales, that face-to-face sales?
And this is a great question. It's really simple, but currently everybody that's doing it is probably doing it slightly different. So I would say what worked for me and what I was disciplined is self-discipline is the biggest thing, Adam, when it comes to either the telesales, right? Mm-hmm. Ideally, you would hope they'd wake up, take that long walk to the kitchen or the office or whatever and pick up the phone. But in my opinion, I think the day-to-day on that is almost a little bit more difficult because you're not necessarily looking at somebody and learning about somebody every day.
Right.
But when it comes to face-to-face, a typical day for me was, again, prepping for my week. I would have everything ready to go before Monday rolled in because that's the biggest excuse day for agents. If you're traveling, let's say you're doing a road warrior, which is basically your territory or the leads you're going to run are in maybe a couple hours away, and you decide to stay in a hotel with you or a buddy or a couple agents maybe doing the same area. So I would have my bags packed, everything ready to roll. Sunday night without that way there's no excuse other than get my clothes on, get cleaned up, ready to roll, hop in the car and go. I have my leads routed, again, routing for efficiency to be able to go through. I typically are going to have my full stack of them on my clipboard ready to go with my first house. Everything's plugged into my GPS. I have extra applications in the car, whatever you need, phone chargers, pins. You got your ID lanyard badge on, your nice polo with your company name on it. And I always want to be at my first door knock, which means the travel distance, stopping for breakfast, gas, whatever you got to do. I want to be at my first one by 10 o'clock. 9:30 is really the goal, typically in the summertime or the wintertime. Mm-hmm. But some of them longer days, by 10 o'clock, you're going to be fine, right? That gives the client time to get up, get moving, whatever they need to do. And then you're kind of moving in that perfect time. I will door knock and, try to sit with families and help them from really 10 to about 8 to 9 at night. And then I'll kind of explain that here in a minute. But that day-to-day goal, my goal is to get an app before lunchtime every single day. So I'm going to get into a home somewhere around 10 to noon, and I'm going to go through the whole process and get an app before lunchtime. That way I try to challenge myself. I don't eat unless I get my first app, right? That's my first family, first policy. So
it's a whole different meaning to being hungry about this business.
You got to. But then following out of lunch, it's very important to eat lunch. Some people say, I'm going to grind through it. But when you're presenting and doing presentations, you need to have energy. You need to have the energy to listen and focus. And if you don't eat, you start to get tired. You start to get groggy. And then your performance really slacks off.
You start to get sloppy. You don't pay attention to the details.
You take shortcuts.
In your ear, you're focused on your issues at the moment. Man, I could really use a burrito right now, or something to that extent.
But your clients deserve the best version, right?
Yes.
Like they deserve you to take your time. They deserve you to actually look and care and move through that. So I've always felt that this is for them. So really between let's call it noon to 4, if you will. That's kind of the time where I'm going to be trying to get in as many homes as I can, which, by the way, I do that all day long, but that's typically the harder time to get in because if you think about somebody in their day, they're kind of chilling and then lunchtime comes and then they go do whatever errand they need to do and then they're coming back for the evening.
Yeah.
But what I'm really trying to gear up there, Adam, is prime time is really about 4:30 to 5 o'clock until 8. Like that is our prime time. That's typically whatever goal they had to do for the day, if it's work in the garden, if it's repaint the shed, like they're pretty much done with any of that stuff at that point in time. They're done visiting with their family. If they have a side job somewhere, like that's all pretty much finished up. So that's prime time. So I want to be able to see if I can get another app between that window the noon to 4 and eat. That's my goal. So I got an app in the morning, lunch, and then I'm trying to get another app and trying to go through 4 o'clock.
So kind of just to pick up on what you said, minimum 2 hours before you even contemplate grabbing a bite or taking a break. You're just on it from that 10 to noon, no
100%.
questions asked, 100% focused, 100% dialed in.
Yeah.
And then if you happen to make a sale close, then we could possibly entertain about having an earlier lunch. But then kind of making it a point to align your breaks with the times that people are going to be the busiest and you're going to have a harder time kind of getting into a door.
And one of the biggest mistakes agents make is when you're rolling into prime time, a lot of agents want to finish up around 5 or 6 and they want to go home to their spouse, their family or their kids and eat dinner, what's going on. They've had a long day. They're tired. Maybe they didn't have as much success. But you think about it, that's when the clients are feeling the same, right? Which is, this is the one time they're most available. This is the one time where they don't have anything to do the rest of the evening. So that's why it's prime time. And typically you're able to get an app at prime time or 2 apps almost snap of a finger. And I tell people this all the time. If I just worked 5 to 8 every day, I could probably, that's where the bulk of the business comes from.
Yeah.
I would rather work those 3 hours and I would probably outperform any agent that's working 9 in the morning to 5, 9 to 5 versus 5 to 8. Because I understand how important that is. And, being able to catch people home, being able to really gather their attention. And it's just absolute crucial. So that's kind of the typical day-to-day schedule. What one sit looks like, if I give you a quick snapshot of that, I'm typically going to pull up to the home. I'm going to do my door knock. I got a script for that. I got a way I move called the door knock dance, which is pretty cool. We have that in training videos if you guys are interested. And then once I enter the home, we typically build the trust. We talk with the family. We look at family photos. I figure out who's who. I really try to get to know them and connect and trust. From there, we talk about, kind of going into our phase we call core: children, occupation, recreation, emotion. From there, we're sitting down probably in the living room somewhere or at the kitchen table. Typically try to do the living room because it's more of I don't want it to be more transactional, if you will.
Right.
I want it to be comfortable. And then I'll kind of walk them through and educate them on the different types of insurance and really get to know what their concerns were, why it was important to them. And then we're flowing into some of their health and then some of the pricing, and then we're qualifying for apps. And then we're doing a cool down phase of just rehashing the beginning conversations and making them know that I'm a human again. Just chit-chatting, just like if I was a neighbor.
Yeah.
And then we talk about some referral opportunities or some other people that I might be able to help. That's typically one sit sell, and I will do that. My goal is to do that like at least 5 times a day, 4 to 5 times a day. And being in the home doing that, you will convert at a very high level of doing it. Now, the cool thing is, because you may think, well, there's no way I can do that every day, right? I can't go 10 to 9 every day. And that's true. But the better you get, you start understanding that you can dial in your process and you can dial in your schedule to where you only have to do that maybe Monday to Wednesday, right? And then you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Or now you can start learning or picking up or doing telesales on Thursday, Friday, and then you still have the weekend like a normal job. So there's so many different hybrid methods you can do, but the benefit of doing face-to-face sales is you're in control of your schedule. You're in control of your time. You can literally go right now. You could jump off this podcast, Adam. You could take a batch of leads. You could drive out to the county or the town, and literally you could help a family and you can get a commission at any day, at any time, and it's up when you want to turn it on and off, which is really, really cool.
That is cool. Now, something you had mentioned, and we actually had a question about this from a podcast we did a while back. You said a road warrior, getting with a number of agents. The questions that was posed to us was, How do you get involved in that? Is that something that you kind of stick within the IMO that you're with? Is there
Typically,
how would you suggest an agent go about trying to pull one of those off?
Well, I think the coolest thing, and for me, is when I was doing the insurance, when I was in it full time in the field, I started to build a team. So when I started to grow, I was like, man, I can do this. This is I can really make a difference in clients' lives. And by doing it, it's making a difference in my life. And then I started showing some of my friends and then other people seeing me doing it and started asking me how I do it and can I help them and can I teach them. So that just kind of started, blossoming from there. And I was always interested in being able to help people. You can't just work the same town all the time, right? So I wanted, okay, what if I go to this county? What if I go to that county? And what you started to find was the more rural, the further away from the bigger cities, the easier it was. And these people are underserved. They're forgotten about. Nobody comes to their door and talks to them. Nobody really calls them. So when you're able to send a lead out to them that they actually fill out requesting it, it's not that there's more need, but there's less distractions. There's less competition.
Well, and less availability. I grew up in one of those little bitty nothing towns in the middle of a cornfield where nobody went out to go and be around. Not to say that I was the final expense type client, but now my parents are, and they don't have this the constant bombardment that you would get living inside the city.
It's almost like they're getting a concierge service, and they're actually more welcoming. They open sometimes they're sitting all the way in the back room and they knock on the door, come on in. Like it's just it's beautiful. It's cool to see. And so we were able to start seeing that the further we were in some of these areas, the easier it was, the higher our production numbers, the people were amazing. It's like, wow. And you get really good returns typically on leads. So we were like, okay, well, how about all three of us go there and we'll all get leads in that same spot. And what we'll do is we'll stay in the hotel, we'll stay in one of the hotels in the area, and we'll work there all day long for 3 days, and then we'll drive home. So we almost go as a team, and the benefit of that is it opens up and allows us to not only serve clients, but it's kind of like a little adventure. It's kind of fun doing it. But at night we can meet up, or we can go to, Applebee's, or Applebee's is always Monday. You get a deal on a cheeseburger on Mondays. Right. We go to BW3's on Tuesdays and watch whatever sporting event or game's on. But we got to talk about our day. We got to ask questions. This is the situation I had. This is the client I was able to help. Hey, have you ever heard of this? This kind of was very difficult today. What would you have done? So we're sharpening our skills in that moment.
So you're selling, you're training, you're bonding, you're doing more than just that typical day to day. You're able to get a little bit more out of it. But your focus
is so much more, Adam, because you don't have the temptation to drive 30 minutes and go right back home.
Right.
You don't have that, okay, I'm here. If I'm going to be away from my family, if I'm going to be away from my home, I'm going to do nothing but give it my all. So your focus is on point. You don't mind staying out later. You're trying to serve and work every single lead that you have. And when you finish it up, you go home, and it's typically an amazing week. You served a lot of families. You got a whole lot more friends. And at the same time, you're able to finish up your week really early, typically a Wednesday or an early Thursday, and still writing a lot of insurance in that period.
Nice. I'll be sure to link. We went to more detail on Road Warriors. Mm-hmm. I think we called it something like make more money in a week than you do in a month. I'll put that link right up here for you. Please go and check that out. We go into a lot more detail about how that all works out. But so it sounds like just that kind of grew organically. Just get around the people within your team, get around the people within your company or organization, and just try to go out and do on your own. With being an insurance agent now, you are CEO of You Inc. So you kind of got to take that initiative, take that jump. So the next thing, and really kind of the last thing we have time for, was leads regarding this. We get all kinds of questions on leads: who to get them, where to get them, what are they best for, and we've had this conversation before. So I'm just going to kind of tee that up. So is there a specific type of lead that you should be looking for face-to-face, something that performs better?
Yeah, so I do get a lot of questions on leads a lot, and the true answer is it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're willing to invest. Typically, when you're looking at a final expense face-to-face lead, my favorite lead for that is a direct mail lead, a physical mail card that has a specific demographic of who exactly I want to sit with. It's mailed out to their homes. They take their pen or their pencil or their stamp. They fill it out, physically fill it out. They put it in the envelope, they lick it, they stick it, they send it back into the mail to us, and then now I'm able to go see them. I'm able to show it to them. That's one of the highest converting / highest buyer intent leads that you can buy. So if you're going to be face-to-face, those are typically ones that I love, that I recommend, because you're going to get less of them and they're higher quality, which means they're a little bit higher priced.
That was my next question.
If they convert at a very high level and I'm spending my time in their homes and writing apps, that's all that matters. Versus you could get, and I'll give you an example. You could get a lower buyer intent telesales lead that may be just a couple dollars, right? Realistically, I'm not going to put 200 leads in my GPS that are $2 leads that I got to drive to every single one of those.
Right.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make it very efficient for me to do that. Whereas the other side of the coin is I probably wouldn't recommend buying a very low, high quality direct mail lead to make phone calls for all week, because it's more of a numbers game. You're going to need to market to those clients a little bit different. Your way you're selling them is a little bit different. But there are different ways other than the direct mail lead that you can run final expense on. We do a lot of these SEO leads that actually have a PDF image of a card that you can actually take to the door. It's very affordable, and you can generate them in a region, which is really cool, to use that as a door knocking lead to do face-to-face sales. You could also get Facebook leads. You basically you can get leads anywhere, but if you understand, the biggest advice that you need to do is you want them to kind of be tight. So your leads are going to be slightly more expensive because your territory you're going to be generating, or that you would ask a company to generate, would be a smaller region because you're physically going to them.
And you need to be able to get from point A to point B. You don't want to be the north end of Indiana for your first appointment and then have to drive all the way back down to New Albany,
exactly.
in that day.
That doesn't make sense. And I will add this, Adam, the cool thing about the opportunity in life insurance today, that telesales has grown. I remember the first time a digital lead came out, and I ran them for the first time because we started on the only thing that exists were direct mail leads, right? So we started running these digital leads, which back when they very first started, if any of you guys remember that, they would either be extremely good or extremely not good. There wasn't a lot of consistency in them. I had an amazing week the first time doing it, but there was some differences in the approach, or what I like to call the anchor, right? Whether it's your beneficiary, your favorite color, your hobby, there's different things that will remind them of the lead for you to get in the home, which was really cool. But man, it's came a long way to where now the insurance opportunity is you can go face-to-face now and run any type of lead that you really want. If you really make it efficient to where you live, you have the opportunity to cross-sell Medicare, even possible annuities or Med-Sup policies, or children's, grandchildren's policies. There's so many more policies that you can pivot to in a home. And for all the ones you didn't get to, you now have the ability and the script to telesell them. Or let's say you have 3 leads that are really far, that kind of an outlier. You have the ability and the confidence in the scripts to now sell those over the phone. So you can create this model, Adam, to where you're getting your consistent, your dependable, your highest converting face-to-face. You can do some cross-sells with that into Medicare and other areas. And then you can also do telesales to finish up the week or supplement. And you can preset appointments. For those that don't want to meet you face-to-face, you can sell them over the phone. You just have the ability and the skill set now with all the training and everything's out there that you could be a hybrid agent and literally be a telesales and a face-to-face at the very same time, which is really cool.
That is awesome. Really just kind of maximizing the opportunity, which is really kind of the whole point of doing this job.
Yep.
Is making the most of what you have, making
Absolutely.
sure that that time and money is being devoted appropriately. Well, Zach, man, it's been a trip. It's been nice to be on this side of the camera. I can't lie.
May have to sub you out for some of those other guys.
Right. I might be around a little bit more. Who knows? Well, thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you took value from what we've brought here for you today. Please be sure to reach out with any questions, comments, like, subscribe, share. This community is growing in the last couple of years that I've been involved, and it's been absolutely amazing to watch. Please make sure that you're allowing other people that you know that could benefit from this, see this, be aware of this, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast.